The stars looked different now. Jiho stood in the command center deep beneath Seoul and stared at the display showing thousands of red dots moving toward Earth. Each dot was an alien warship. Each ship could destroy entire cities. There were 9,700 of them. 3 months ago, the radio telescopes picked up the first signals, strange patterns that did not match anything natural. The scientists worked day and night to understand what they meant. When they finally decoded the message, the world changed forever. We are not alone, and whoever was out there was coming. The Varkan Empire called themselves the rulers of 47 star systems. They sent a message to Earth in broken English and dozens of other languages. The translation was simple: give up now or die. They gave humanity one day to surrender. Jiho was a general. He had spent 30 years in the military. He fought in wars and trained soldiers, but nothing prepared him for this. How do you fight an enemy that crossed the stars? How do you defend against weapons you do not understand? The politicians wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight. But nobody knew what to do. That was when Hana stepped forward. She was a scientist who studied physics and space technology. She was young, only 32 years old, but she was brilliant. Hana looked at the alien ships and saw something everyone else missed. She saw their weakness. The Varkans flew in tight groups. Their ships stayed close together like a flock of birds. It made them look powerful and scary. But Hana knew it also made them vulnerable. One big explosion could take out many ships at once. The aliens were so confident they did not think about defense. They only thought about attack. Jiho listened to Hana's plan. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It would cost lives. But it might work. He looked around the command center at the faces of men and women from every country on Earth. For the first time in history, all of humanity worked together. There were no more borders, no more enemies, just one species trying to survive. Commander Yuna was in charge of Earth's secret weapons. Nobody knew they existed until now. For 20 years, world governments quietly built weapons in space, satellites that were really guns, moon bases that hid missiles, technology that looked like science fiction. They built these things in secret because they feared other countries. Now those weapons would save everyone. Yuna activated the defense network. All around Earth and the moon, machines woke up. Computers started running battle programs. Weapons loaded ammunition. Everything was ready. But it would not be enough. Even with all their secret weapons, Earth was outmatched. The Varkans had too many ships and too much power. That was when Jiho made the hardest decision of his life. He called for volunteers, people who would fly into space knowing they might not come back, people who would sacrifice everything for a chance to hurt the enemy. He expected a few hundred soldiers to step forward. Instead, thousands volunteered. Pilots, engineers, scientists, even civilians. They all wanted to fight. The Varkan fleet entered the solar system near Jupiter. They moved slowly, taking their time. They wanted Earth to see them coming. They wanted humanity to feel fear. Fleet Admiral Krath commanded the invasion force. He was a veteran of many conquests. He had destroyed civilizations before. Earth would be easy. Krath sent another message to Earth. This time there were no words. Just images, pictures of worlds burning, cities in ruins, species enslaved or extinct. The message was clear. This is your future. This is what happens when you resist. In the command center, people watched the images in silence. Some cried. Others got angry. But Jiho felt something else. He felt determination. The Varkans made a mistake. They thought fear would make humans weak. They did not understand that fear can also make people dangerous. Hana worked without sleep. She modified weapons and designed new ones. She took alien technology they captured from a probe and combined it with human innovation. The results were terrifying. Bombs that created black holes, drones smaller than sand, viruses that ate through metal. Humanity had spent thousands of years learning how to kill each other. Now all that knowledge would be used against a common enemy. The volunteers prepared for their missions. Minho was one of them. He was a pilot with 10 years of experience. He had a wife and a daughter. He held their picture and made a promise. He would protect them. He would protect everyone, even if it cost him everything. Suman was another volunteer. She was an engineer who helped build the secret satellites. She knew the weapons better than anyone. She also knew the suicide mission needed someone who understood the technology, someone who could make sure the plan worked. She uploaded a copy of her mind into the quantum computers. If she died, At least her memories would survive. The Varkan fleet reached Mars. Soon they would arrive at Earth. Krath expected the humans to launch their missiles. He expected desperate attacks that his shields would easily stop. He expected victory in less than 1 day. What he did not expect was silence. Earth sent no messages, launched no missiles, made no threats. The planet just sat there waiting. It made Krath uncomfortable. In all his years of conquest, prey always fought back immediately. They always wasted their weapons in the first attack. But these humans did nothing. They just watched and waited. In the command center, Jiho watched the alien fleet get closer. His hands were steady. His voice was calm. But inside his heart raced. Everything depended on the next few hours. If the plan failed, humanity would be extinct. If it succeeded, they might have a chance. Just a chance. Hana stood next to him. She checked the calculations one more time. The math was perfect. The weapons were ready. The volunteers were in position. There was nothing left to do but wait. She thought about her family. Her parents who raised her to love science. Her brother who always believed in her. She hoped they would be proud of what she did today. Yuna gave the signal. 3 small ships launched from Earth. They were old and slow. They broadcast surrender messages in every language. They appeared on the Varkan sensors like frightened prey begging for mercy. Krath smiled when he saw them. The humans were giving up already. This would be easier than he thought. The Varkan flagship opened its hangar bay. Tractor beams reached out and pulled the 3 human ships inside. Krath ordered his soldiers to take the prisoners. He wanted to see what humans looked like. He wanted to enjoy his victory. In one of those ships, Minho checked the timer. 10 seconds. He thought about his daughter. 9 seconds. He thought about his wife. 8 seconds. He thought about Earth. 7 seconds. He pressed the button. The 3 ships exploded. But these were no normal explosions. Antimatter met matter. Quantum fields collapsed. Reality bent and twisted. 3 small black holes formed inside the Varkan flagship. They lasted only seconds. But in those seconds, they consumed everything nearby. The flagship vanished. 300 escort ships were pulled in and destroyed. The war had begun, and the Varkans were already losing. The Varkan fleet stopped moving. For the first time in their history, they felt shock. Their flagship was gone. 300 ships destroyed in seconds, and the humans had not even used traditional weapons. Krath was dead. The command structure was in chaos. In the command center on Earth, people cheered. The first strike worked, but Jiho did not celebrate. He knew this was just the beginning. The Varkans still had over 9,000 ships. They would recover from the shock. They would get angry, and angry enemies make mistakes. Minho woke up in a new body. The consciousness transfer worked. He was in a cloning facility in Australia, inside a body that looked exactly like his original one. All his memories were intact. He felt strange knowing his original body was dead. But he was alive. He could still fight. He could still protect his family. Suman woke up next to him. She looked at her new hands and flexed her fingers. Everything worked perfectly. The quantum upload technology was humanity's secret weapon. Soldiers could take impossible risks because death was no longer permanent. Not for everyone, though. The process was expensive. Only a few hundred people had backup copies ready. The Varkans appointed a new commander. Admiral Vex was younger than Krath, but more careful. He studied the attack and understood what happened. The humans used tricks. They used weapons the Varkans never saw before. Vex would not fall for the same trap twice. He ordered the fleet to spread out and stay away from each other. But spreading out made them vulnerable to the next phase of Hana's plan. She called it the Swarm. From hidden facilities on the moon, Earth launched 10 million microdrones. Each drone was tiny, smaller than a grain of rice. They had no weapons. They did not explode. They just floated in space like dust. The Varkan sensors could not detect something so small. The drones drifted toward the alien ships like pollen on the wind. It took hours for them to reach the fleet. Nobody noticed when they attached to the hulls and started drilling microscopic holes. Inside each drone was a nano-assembler, a tiny machine that could build copies of itself using any material it found. The drones entered the Varkan ships through the small holes and started replicating. 1 became 2. 2 became 4. 4 became 8. The growth was exponential. Nari monitored the swarm from Earth. She was an engineer who designed the nano-assemblers. She watched her computer screen as millions of drones spread through the enemy fleet. Each drone sent a tiny signal. Together, they painted a picture of every Varkan ship from the inside. Nari saw their engines, their weapons, their life support systems. She saw everything. Admiral Vex did not know his ships were infected. His engineers reported minor technical problems. A door that would not open. A screen that flickered. Small things. Nothing that seemed dangerous. The Varkans were so focused on watching for external attacks that they ignored the enemy growing inside their walls. It took 3 days for the swarm to spread through the entire fleet. 3 days of the drones quietly replicating and taking positions. They attached to control systems. They wrapped around power cables. They nestled into computer circuits. And then they waited for the signal. Jiho gave the order. Nari pressed a button. Across the Varkan fleet, 10 billion nanodrones activated at the same moment. They did not explode. They did not need to. They simply stopped working, engines shut down. Navigation systems failed. Weapons would not fire. Life support started malfunctioning. Some ships lost gravity. Others lost air pressure. Communication systems went dead. In less than 1 minute, 3,000 Varkan warships became floating coffins. Admiral Vex watched his fleet die. His own ship was affected too. Emergency power barely kept life support running. He tried to send orders, but the communication system was broken. He tried to organize a defense, but half his ships could not move. The humans had defeated thousands of ships without firing a single bullet. On Earth, Taeyang prepared the next phase. He was a colonel in charge of the new space fighter program. His pilots trained for years in secret. They flew ships that used technology nobody had seen before, stealth systems that made them invisible, engines that could accelerate faster than anything the Varkans had. Weapons designed specifically to kill alien ships. Taeyang's squadron launched from hidden bases on the moon. 50 fighters streaked toward the disabled Varkan ships. They did not attack the helpless vessels. That would be murder. Instead, they destroyed the ships that still worked. The ones trying to rescue their stranded comrades. The Varkans could not fight back effectively. Their sensors barely detected the human fighters. When they did manage to lock weapons, the fighters were already gone. They moved like ghosts, appearing from nowhere and vanishing before return fire arrived. Daehyun was one of the pilots. He flew through the debris field from the destroyed flagship, using the wreckage as cover. His fighter's computer identified targets. He fired missiles at a Varkan cruiser. The missiles were smart. They dodged the defensive fire and struck exactly where the armor was weakest. The cruiser broke apart. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, another 2,000 Varkan ships were destroyed or disabled. The aliens lost over 5,000 vessels in less than 1 week. They came to conquer Earth with overwhelming force. Instead, they were being torn apart piece by piece. Admiral Vex managed to restore basic functions to his ship. He gathered the remaining commanders for a meeting. The fleet was in ruins. Morale was broken. Many wanted to retreat. But Vex knew the Empire would execute them for failure. They had no choice but to keep fighting, even if it meant they all died. He ordered the surviving ships to pull back to Jupiter's orbit. They needed time to repair and reorganize. The Varkans also needed to understand what they were fighting. These humans did not fight like a primitive species. They fought with intelligence, creativity, and ruthlessness. On Earth, Jiho met with the world leaders. The victories were impressive, but they came at a cost. The antimatter bombs used rare materials. The nanodrones took months to manufacture. The fighter pilots were exhausted. Earth could not sustain this level of warfare forever. Hana presented her analysis. The Varkans still had about 4,500 ships left. Many were damaged but still dangerous. They also had weapons Earth had not seen yet. The aliens were holding back, probably saving their strongest weapons for the final assault. When that attack came, it would be devastating. Yuna proposed something radical. They needed a weapon that would terrify the Varkans. Something so unexpected that it would break their will to fight. She had an idea, but it was controversial. It involved changing life itself, creating something new, something that should not exist. Jiho listened to Yuna's proposal. When she finished, the room was silent. What she suggested went against every law about genetic engineering. It violated treaties and ethics. But these were desperate times. The survival of humanity was at stake. Jiho looked around the room at the faces of presidents and prime ministers. They all nodded. Do it in the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Jiwoo received the authorization. She was a marine biologist who studied whales. For years, she worked on Project Leviathan in secret. The project started as research into whale communication. It became something much more. Jiwoo looked at the massive tank in front of her. Inside was something beautiful and terrible. Something that would change everything. The creature in the tank was once a humpback whale. Now it was something else. Enhanced with technology. Modified with genetic engineering. Connected to quantum computers. It could survive in space. It could fight. And most importantly, it was not alone. There were hundreds more like it waiting beneath the ocean. Jiwoo gave the command. The Leviathans rose from the depths and launched into the sky. Their songs echoed across the world. A sound of beauty and rage. A promise of vengeance. The Varkans had brought war to Earth. Now Earth would show them what real monsters looked like. The Leviathans moved through space like they owned it. Their massive bodies glowed with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with energy. Each creature was 50 meters long and weighed over 30 tons. But in the zero gravity of space, they moved with grace that seemed impossible. Jiwoo watched through cameras mounted on the lead Leviathan. She called it Dancer. The whale had been the first to volunteer for the modifications. Yes, volunteer. The quantum neural interface allowed the whales to communicate complex ideas. When Jiwoo asked if they wanted to help defend Earth, Dancer agreed immediately. The ocean was dying because of pollution and climate change. The whales knew humanity was flawed. But Earth was their home too. Dancer and the other Leviathans approached the Varkan fleet near Jupiter. The alien sensors detected them but classified them as animals. No threat, the Varkans ignored them completely. That was their mistake. Dancer activated the quantum tunneling system built into its spine. Reality bent around the massive creature. Space folded. In an instant, Dancer teleported from empty space directly into the engine room of a Varkan battleship. The whale appeared in a flash of light, its 40-ton body materializing inside a space barely large enough to hold it. The result was catastrophic. The Leviathan's body crushed vital systems. Plasma conduits ruptured. The reactor went critical. Dancer teleported away 1 second before the ship exploded. The blast destroyed 2 nearby vessels and damaged a dozen more. All around the Varkan fleet, 200 Leviathans attacked in the same way. They appeared inside ships, caused chaos, and vanished before they could be killed. The aliens panicked. Their weapons could not track targets that teleported. Their shields did nothing against enemies that appeared inside them, but the Leviathans could do more than teleport. They sang. The sound traveled through space in ways physics said should be impossible. It was not really sound. It was something else. Quantum vibrations that affected matter at the atomic level. When the whales sang their war songs, Varkan ships shook themselves apart. Admiral Vex watched 50 of his ships die in 10 minutes. He could not understand what he was seeing. The creatures were biological but used technology that seemed like magic. His science officers had no explanation. His weapons officers could not target them. Fear spread through the fleet faster than any virus. Meanwhile, Daehyun and his fighter squadron hunted the edges of the Varkan formation. They used hit-and-run tactics perfected over centuries of human warfare. Strike fast, kill quick, disappear. The Varkans never saw them coming. Daehyun targeted supply ships and repair vessels, not the warships. He attacked the support structure. Without supplies, the warships could not function. Without repairs, damaged ships became useless. It was a strategy as old as war itself. Cut the supply lines and the enemy starves. His computer identified a Varkan tanker carrying fuel. It was protected by only 2 escort fighters. Daehyun's squadron outnumbered them 10-1. The escorts did not stand a chance. In 30 seconds, they were destroyed. The tanker tried to run, but it was slow and heavy. Daehyun's missiles turned it into a fireball that could be seen from Earth. The psychological warfare was just as important as the physical attacks. Taeyang had teams of hackers working around the clock. They broke into Varkan communication networks and played messages designed to demoralize the enemy. Human music blasted through alien speakers. Heavy metal, classical symphonies, electronic dance music. The Varkans could not shut it off. But worse than the music were the holograms. Human faces appeared on Varkan screens laughing and mocking them. Sometimes the holograms spoke in the Varkan language, taunting the soldiers about their failures. Other times the holograms showed Earth cities peaceful and untouched, while Varkan ships burned in space. The aliens could not sleep. Every time they closed their eyes, they heard human laughter. Every time they tried to rest, alarms went off or lights flickered. It was torture, systematic, relentless, cruel, and it worked. Varkan soldiers started making mistakes. They were exhausted, paranoid, and afraid. On Earth, Junho prepared his own weapon. He was an ambassador, not a soldier. But he understood that wars are not won just with guns. They are won with ideas. He studied everything the humans learned about Varkan culture, their language, their history, their politics, and he found cracks in their society. The Varkan Empire was not as united as it appeared. The ruling class lived in luxury while common soldiers died in wars. The government lied to its people. Resources meant for military families were stolen by corrupt officials. Junho gathered evidence of all this: documents, financial records, secret communications, everything he needed to start a revolution. But he would save that weapon for later. Right now, the priority was survival. Junho worked with teams translating human culture for potential alien allies. If the Varkans had enemies, humanity wanted to find them. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That was an old saying, but it was still true. Admiral Vex called an emergency meeting of his commanders. The fleet had lost over 6,000 ships, more than half their force. The survivors were exhausted and terrified. Some captains suggested retreat. Others wanted to use their ultimate weapons. Vex knew both options were suicide. If they retreated, the Empire would execute them for cowardice. If they used planet-killing weapons, the humans would probably have a defense against those too. And even if they managed to destroy Earth, it would not matter. The humans had already uploaded copies of their minds. They had data stored on the Moon and Mars. Killing Earth would not kill humanity. Vex made a decision. The fleet would attack in waves, not all at once. Controlled assaults designed to test human defenses and find weaknesses. It was a defensive strategy disguised as an offense. But at this point, Vex was not trying to win. He was just trying to survive long enough to figure out what to do. The first wave consisted of 200 ships. They approached Earth slowly, weapons charged and shields at maximum. They expected attacks from all directions. What they got was worse, nothing. The humans let them advance without opposition. It was unnerving. When the Varkan ships reached lunar orbit, they finally saw the trap. Earth had built a minefield. Not with traditional mines. With weapons that use gravity manipulation. When activated, they created localized gravity wells strong enough to crush ships. The Varkan formation flew right into it. Minji activated the gravity mines from a control station on the Moon. She was a physicist who specialized in theoretical science. Her team spent 2 years figuring out how to weaponize gravity. The results exceeded their expectations. Varkan ships crumpled like paper cups. The alien shields meant nothing against a force that could not be blocked. In 5 minutes, the entire wave was destroyed. 200 ships, thousands of aliens, gone. The surviving Varkans watched from a safe distance and felt their courage break. They were not fighting a primitive species. They were fighting something that understood the universe better than they did. Dancer and the other Leviathans returned to Earth's oceans to rest. The whales were tired but satisfied. They had protected their home. They had shown the invaders that Earth's defenders included more than just humans. The planet itself was alive, and it fought back. Jiwoo checked on Dancer through the neural link. The whale was happy. It had been magnificent, beautiful and terrible. A creature of peace transformed into a weapon of war. Jiwoo felt guilty about what they had done to the whales. But Dancer sent back feelings of understanding. The whales chose this. They knew what was at stake. In the command center, Jiho reviewed the latest reports. The Varkans had less than 4,000 ships left. They were broken and scared, but they were still dangerous. A wounded animal fights the hardest. The next phase would be the most critical. Humanity had to finish this before the Varkans did something desperate, before they decided that if they could not conquer Earth, they would destroy it completely. Admiral Vex received new orders from the Varkan High Council. The message was encrypted, but the meaning was clear. Retreat was forbidden. Victory was required. Failure meant execution for him and disgrace for his family. The Empire would accept nothing less than the complete conquest of Earth or the total destruction of the invasion force. Vex read the message 3 times. Then he deleted it. His commanders did not need to know. They were already scared enough. He looked at the tactical display showing his remaining 3,800 ships. Once this fleet was the pride of the Empire. Now it was a broken remnant trying to survive. The council included a final option, Protocol Omega. If victory proved impossible, Vex was authorized to destroy Earth's sun. The Varkans had weapons that could destabilize a star and cause it to explode. The blast would kill every living thing in the solar system, including all the Varkan soldiers. It was a suicide option, a way to erase the evidence of their failure. Vex called his senior officers to a meeting. He told them about the council's demands, but not about Protocol Omega. He asked for ideas. Nobody spoke at first. Then Captain Rennick suggested something radical. What if they tried to negotiate? The humans had proven they could fight. Maybe they would accept a treaty. The other officers rejected the idea immediately. The Empire never negotiated with primitives. It would be seen as weakness. But Vex noticed something. When Rennick suggested negotiation, several officers looked relieved. They wanted a way out. They were tired of dying for a war they could not win. On Earth, Junho had been waiting for this moment. His team intercepted the encrypted message from the Varkan Council. They could not fully decode it, but they understood enough. The Empire was desperate. They were considering extreme measures. This was the perfect time to strike at their morale. Junho prepared a broadcast. He had been learning the Varkan language for weeks. He studied their culture and psychology. He knew what words would hurt them most, what truths would make them question everything. He sat in front of a camera and began recording. The message went out on every frequency the Varkans used. It bypassed command channels and went directly to individual soldiers. Junho spoke in perfect Varkan, his voice calm and reasonable. He showed them images they had never seen before. Pictures of the 47 worlds the Empire conquered. Cities burning, families separated, children crying. Then he showed them something worse, evidence of corruption in the Varkan government. Records proving that the High Council stole money meant for soldiers' families. Communications showing how council members lived in luxury, while common soldiers died in wars. Junho laid out the truth in simple, undeniable facts. But the most powerful part of the message came at the end. Junho showed images of Varkan families. He had hacked the Empire's databases and found pictures of the soldiers' loved ones, parents, partners, children. He showed these pictures next to images of Earth's cities full of civilians. Then he asked a simple question. Why are you fighting? Your leaders live in safety while you die in space. They steal your money. They lie to your families. And now they want you to destroy this world and yourselves just to hide their failure. Look at these humans. They fight to protect their families. What are you protecting? The effect was immediate. Across the Varkan fleet, soldiers watched the broadcast and started talking. Some got angry. Others got quiet. But everyone thought about what they saw. The humans had given them something more dangerous than any weapon. They gave them doubt. Admiral Vex tried to shut down the broadcast, but it was too late. The message had already spread to every ship. He could see the effects on his crew. They moved slower. They questioned orders. Some openly discussed the corruption Junho revealed. Vex knew he was losing control. Captain Rennick came to Vex's quarters late at night. He looked exhausted. He told Vex something shocking. Half the captains in the fleet wanted to mutiny. They wanted to arrest Vex and negotiate with the humans. The other half wanted to use Protocol Omega immediately and end this war the only way left. The fleet was about to tear itself apart. Vex made a choice. He contacted Earth directly. He asked to speak with their leaders. He did not know if the humans would answer. He did not know what he would say if they did. But he knew continuing to fight was pointless. Better to take a chance on peace than guarantee death for everyone. Jiho received the communication request. He was surprised. He expected the Varkans to fight to the end. He met with his advisors to discuss whether to answer. Hana argued against it. The aliens might be trying to buy time. Yuna suggested it might be a trap, but Junho said they should talk. This could be the breakthrough they needed. Jiho decided to answer. But he did it publicly. The conversation would be broadcast across all channels. Both humans and Varkans would hear it. There would be no secret deals, no hidden terms. Everything would be transparent. Vex appeared on the screen. He looked tired, defeated. He spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. He said the invasion was a mistake. He said the Empire underestimated humanity. He said many of his soldiers did not want to fight anymore. Then he asked the question that changed everything. What would it take for this war to end? Jiho considered his answer. He could demand unconditional surrender. He could demand the Varkans leave and never return, but he had a better idea, one that would prevent future wars. He made an offer that shocked everyone listening. Earth would allow the Varkan fleet to leave in peace. No more attacks, no more deaths. But there were conditions. The Varkans had to share their technology. They had to provide star charts showing the location of the Empire. They had to send ambassadors to Earth to establish diplomatic relations. And most importantly, they had to free all the species they enslaved. Vex listened to the demands. They were harsh but not impossible. He knew the High Council would never agree, but he also knew the Council was not here. He was. And his soldiers were dying while the Council sat in safety. Vex made a decision that would be remembered in history. He accepted the terms, but not everyone agreed. Commander Volak was a loyal officer who believed in the Empire. He heard Vex's acceptance and called it treason. He gathered supporters among the conservative officers. They would not surrender. They would rather die fighting. And if they had to, they would activate Protocol Omega themselves. The Varkan fleet split into two factions, those who supported Vex and peace, and those who supported Volak and continued war. About 2,000 ships sided with Vex. The other 1,800 remained loyal to the Empire. The civil war began within hours. Varkan ships fired on each other. Brothers killed brothers. The fleet that came to conquer Earth now destroyed itself. Vex tried to minimize casualties, but Volak's faction fought with desperate fury. They knew they were doomed. They just wanted to take everyone else with them. From Earth, humans watched the alien fleet tear itself apart. Some felt satisfaction. Others felt pity. These soldiers were just following orders. They were victims of their own government. But they chose to come to Earth. They chose to threaten humanity. Actions have consequences. The Civil War lasted 3 days. In the end, Vex's faction won, but at terrible cost. Of the 2,000 ships that sided with him, only 1,200 survived. Volak's entire faction was destroyed. The admiral died on his bridge, still believing in the Empire that abandoned him. But before he died, Volak did one final thing. He launched Protocol Omega, a massive missile carrying enough exotic matter to destabilize the sun. If it reached its target, Earth and everything in the solar system would die. The missile was fast and heavily armored, and it was already halfway to the sun. Jiho saw the threat and knew they had only minutes to respond. This was it. The final test. Everything humanity built and fought for came down to whether they could stop one missile. He looked at Hana. She smiled. Of course they could stop it. They were human. They always found a way. The Protocol Omega missile moved through space faster than anything humanity had ever built. Its shields could withstand direct hits from nuclear weapons. Its engines used technology that bent physics. It would reach the sun in 8 minutes. And when it arrived, the sun would explode. Hana ran calculations on her computer. Every weapon system Earth had could not stop the missile in time. The Leviathans could not teleport that far. The fighter squadrons could not catch it. The gravity mines were in the wrong position. There was only one option, and it was insane. Earth had one prototype ship, the Indomitable. It was built using recovered Varkan technology combined with human innovation. It had never been tested in real combat. The engines were experimental. The weapons were untried, but it was fast. Faster than anything else humanity had. It might be fast enough. Yunwu was the test pilot for the Indomitable. He was in the moon base when the call came. Get to the ship. Stop the missile. Save the world. No pressure. He ran to the hangar and jumped into the cockpit. The ship powered up instantly. Its quantum computer synced with his neural implant. He and the ship became one. The Indomitable launched from the moon at maximum acceleration. The G-forces would have killed a normal human, but Hyunwoo's body was enhanced. His bones were reinforced. His organs were supported by nanomachines. He could survive forces that would turn others into paste. He pushed the engines harder. The missile was 6 minutes from the sun. Hyunwoo was 3 minutes from intercept. It would be close. Too close. He armed all weapons. The Indomitable carried plasma cannons, railguns, and something new. A weapon Hana called the Void Cutter. It created a temporary crack in space-time that could cut through anything. In theory, it had never been tested. Back on Earth, everyone watched. Billions of people looked at their screens and saw the 2 dots moving on the tactical display. One dot was death. The other was hope. The dots moved closer together. 4 minutes to impact. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. Hyunwoo saw the missile ahead. It was huge, 50 meters long and covered in armor. He fired the plasma cannons. Direct hit. The missile's shields absorbed the blast without damage. He fired the railguns. The tungsten rounds bounced off the armor. Nothing worked. The missile kept going. 1 minute to impact. Hyunwoo had one chance. The Void Cutter. He activated the weapon. Energy built up in the ship's main core. Space around the Indomitable started to distort. Reality itself bent and twisted. The weapon was ready. Hyunwoo aimed at the missile and fired. A line of absolute darkness cut through space. It was not black. It was the absence of everything. Where the beam passed, matter simply stopped existing. The Void Cutter hit the missile and sliced through it like it was not there. The missile split into 2 pieces. The exotic matter core was exposed, but the core was still active, still dangerous. It would still destroy the sun if it got close enough. 30 seconds to impact. Hyunwoo made a decision. He flew the Indomitable directly at the broken missile. His shields touched the exotic matter. Alarm screamed. The ship was being pulled apart by forces that should not exist. Hyunwoo activated the quantum tunneling system, the same technology that let the Leviathans teleport. But he did not teleport away from the missile. He teleported with it. Both the Indomitable and the broken missile vanished from space near the sun. They reappeared 1 light year away, in empty space, far from anything that could be hurt. The exotic matter exploded. The blast was visible from Earth even across that impossible distance. A new star appeared in the sky for 3 seconds. Then it faded. Hyunwoo and the Indomitable were gone. The missile was destroyed. Earth was saved. In the command center, silence. Then someone started clapping. Others joined. Soon everyone was cheering. They were alive. Humanity survived. But the celebration was brief. They had lost a hero. Hyunwoo sacrificed himself to save billions. His name would be remembered forever. Jiho stood and called for quiet. The war was over, they won. But the cost was high. Thousands of humans died. Minho, Sumin, Hyunwoo, and so many others. They gave everything. The least humanity could do was honor their sacrifice by building a better future. Admiral Vex watched from his ship. When the missile was destroyed, he felt relief and shame. Relief that Protocol Omega failed. Shame that his people created it in the first place. He opened a channel to Earth and formally surrendered. The Varkan fleet would honor the peace terms. They would share their technology. They would help free the enslaved worlds. The surviving Varkan ships began landing on the moon. Human soldiers met them. There was tension. These were enemies just hours ago. But both sides were tired of fighting. They lowered their weapons. The first Varkan to step onto lunar soil was a young officer named Krell. He looked at the Earth hanging in the black sky and understood why the humans fought so hard. It was beautiful. Over the next weeks, humanity and the Varkans worked together. The aliens taught humans about faster-than-light travel, about energy shields and advanced weapons. In return, humans taught the Varkans about cooperation and creativity, about fighting smart instead of fighting hard. Junho became Earth's first ambassador to alien species. He traveled to the 47 conquered worlds and helped them rebel against the Empire. One by one, the worlds declared independence. The Varkan Empire collapsed. In its place came something new, a federation of free worlds working together. Jiwoo continued working with the Leviathans, but now instead of weapons, they focused on exploration. The whales wanted to see other oceans on other worlds. Humanity built ships that could carry them through space. Dancer was the first to volunteer. The whale dreamed of swimming in alien seas. Hana led the effort to build Earth's first real starship. Not a fighter or a warship, a vessel designed for exploration and discovery. The ship would carry humans and aliens together to see what was out there beyond the known stars. She named it the Hyunwoo in honor of the pilot who saved Earth. 1 year after the invasion ended, Earth sent a message to the galaxy. It was broadcast on every frequency, translated into every known language. The message was simple but powerful. It told the story of the invasion, how 9,700 ships came to conquer Earth, how only 17 survived to return home. But the message was not a threat. It was a warning and an invitation. Humanity told the galaxy that Earth would defend itself against any aggressor. They proved they could win against impossible odds. They would do it again if they had to. But they also said that anyone who came in peace would be welcomed. Anyone who wanted to trade or learn would find friends. The message ended with words that would echo across the stars for generations. We are humanity. We survived ice ages and plagues and disasters. We survived trying to kill ourselves for thousands of years. We learned to work together when our world was at stake. We are not the strongest species. We are not the smartest, but we are survivors. We adapt, we innovate. We overcome. Remember this if you ever think about threatening our home. The galaxy listened. Some species were impressed. Others were scared. Many wanted to meet these humans who defeated the Varkan Empire. Earth received hundreds of messages. Some were friendly. Some were hostile. But all of them were careful. None wanted to repeat the mistake the Varkans made. Jiho retired from the military. He had done his duty. Earth was safe. Now it was time for diplomats and explorers to take over. He went home to Seoul and walked the streets he protected. People recognized him and thanked him. He always said the same thing. Do not thank me. Thank everyone who fought. Thank everyone who died. Thank everyone who refused to give up. On the moon, a monument was built. It listed the names of everyone who died defending Earth. Minho and Suman were there. Hyunwoo was there. Thousands of others. The monument had an inscription that said simply, "They fought so we could live." We will never forget. Admiral Vex remained on Earth. He could not return to the Varkan Empire. They would execute him as a traitor. But Earth offered him asylum. He worked as an advisor, helping humans understand alien technology and politics. He also wrote a book about the invasion from the Varkan perspective. It became required reading in military academies across the galaxy. 10 years after the invasion, the starship Hyunwoo launched on its first mission. The crew was mixed. Humans, Varkans, and representatives from other species. They would travel to unexplored regions and seek out new civilizations. They would prove that the galaxy did not have to be a place of war and conquest. It could be something better. Yoonbi was the captain of the Hyunwoo. She was too young to fight in the invasion, but grew up hearing the stories. She learned the lessons humanity paid for in blood. Be prepared. Be creative. Work together. Never give up. These were the values she would carry to the stars. As the Hyunwoo left the solar system, Yoonbi looked back at Earth, a small blue world that refused to die. A planet that taught the galaxy an important lesson. Size does not matter. Numbers do not matter. What matters is the will to survive and the courage to fight for what you love. Earth had that. Humanity had that. And they would carry it with them wherever they went. The invasion was over. The legend had just begun. Humanity was no longer trapped on one world. They were free to explore the universe. And wherever they went, they carried a simple message. We are human. We survived the unsurvivable. We defeated the undefeatable. We are here. And we are not going anywhere.